Hi, welcome to East Creek. I'm East Creek Joe. Today we're in for a bowl breakthrough. If you are not throwing bowls in two parts, this is a guaranteed breakthrough for you right now. I'm starting off with a 25-pound bag of clay that I've cut into two pieces. I've cut about a third of the bag off of the block, and I have the 2/3 part here. I got the 1/3 part set aside. So I'm going to start off here by doing my regular centering and opening procedure. If you want to see a little bit more about that and hear some more descriptions, check out the centering video, check out the East Creek method throwing video. You get a lot more of that stuff here. But in this case, I'm doing my regular centering process, doing a little bit of clapping on center and getting this going. One thing I'm going to do here for the viewer is just adjust the camera down a little bit. You can see the wheel head, a little bit more of the wheel, a little bit less of me. And okay, start close to where you want to end up. I got my piece stuck down. I am using a bat. Very important to have a bat here. No way you're getting this off the wheel without a bat, at least until it's dry. I've sealed down my piece of clay. And again, my normal procedure. Now, one thing, if you have issues with centering, and you see a lot, I'm starting at the bottom going all the way up, but you can think about this by breaking it down. And I'll do a little reminder video that's really short so that you can watch this part over and over. But if you have a wobbly piece of clay, you're having a hard time getting a hold of it, break it down into what you can do. If you've ever thrown a teacup off the hump, then you probably know how to center just a little bit. And if all this clay is too much to center, can you do that? Well, and if you have that on center, can you come down and get this? Can you do that? And if you got that on center, can you come down and get that? Just that little bit more. Can you get that? Oh, sure, okay. And so, then it also helps in your mind to be breaking that down into steps that feel manageable. A lot of people, if you start off on a thing that you think isn't gonna work, guess what? It's not gonna work. And so you have to create a plan that you feel like can work. So breaking down your big piece of clay into these smaller pieces to center can be a really helpful thing to do. So I'm doing this cone up, cone down kind of move. And I do want to do as good a job centering on these as I can, because big bowls are more susceptible to issues with getting rocking and rolling, so we don't want that to happen. So I'll do a really nice job centering. Split the hands, come down. And if I have a little bit of wobble on the bottom, not a huge deal. I'll just come in with my finger and waste a little bit. Waste the wobble. It's okay to waste a little clay to give yourself a nice foundation from which to start. Okay, centering, opening, raising, shaping. I'm at the opening stage, and now this is where it starts to get interesting, because what we're going to do is open directly to the bat, and then we're going to open it a long ways in order to make room for our other piece of clay, our 6-pound, 7-ounce ball of clay that is waiting in the wings. So just like a normal opening, I'm using my thumbs to create a divot. I'm bringing water into the divot, and then I'm driving in there with my dominant middle finger until I get to a place where I feel, and then I'm gonna give it a little bit more water, and I'm gonna drive with my knuckle. And again, that knuckle is lined up with my wrist. So I have this straight, powerful move where I have my right hand on my right knee, and I'm making a powerful move down. I'm driving down. And as I'm driving down, I'm gonna make sure that this rim, the rim on the top of my bowl, continues to move out at a slow and continuous rate. That slow and continuous rate of moving out will contribute to this staying on center. If this doesn't move out, it's much more likely that you'll start getting off center. So I got myself in that position. The other thing is I have my sponge here with some water on it, and I'm using it to hold my wrist. And if I need to deploy some water, I can dump a little bit of water down my hand and onto that fist. I'm realizing that I wish I was going a little faster, so I'm gonna just start going faster. Look at me change the wheel speed. I stopped touching the clay. I rarely have my hands on the clay when I change the wheel speed, except if I'm maybe in the centering or coning up phase. Like, I am too worried that I'm gonna mess it up. So I'll drill down with that powerful finger. I feel the bat. And as I come out, like, some weird stuff can come out. This stuff, it happens all the time. It's all right. Don't worry about that. As long as it's not smoothing back over and rolling air or water into your pot, those little snakes and stuff coming out, they're just a product of your hand being a little jimmied. And you can adjust over time, but it's not like, you don't have to beat yourself up about it. Okay, so now I have an opened piece. I'm going to complete the opening. And again, I'm in this straight armed thing. And this is where, as I come down here, I will be driving this knuckle into the bottom inside corner of this pot. And as I do that, I'm creating a lever where this part of my arm is going to touch this part of the cylinder, and I'm going to lever off that spot. So if I create my arm as a lever like this, this is a very strong move. If I want to impart strength into here, and I add a lever here, that's really good. So that's going to make this really strong move. That's going to make my opening process pretty civilized. And you can see as I do this, this rim is moving out as the bottom is opening. So now I'm about 5 fingers open on the bottom, and what I want is my bottom to be open like about this much. That's kind of what I'm going to be shooting for, because then I'm going to put that 6 pounds of clay in there, and it's going to lay in there like 2 inches thick, which I need because this is a huge bowl. Big bowls, big rims, big feet. If I just have a little bit at the bottom, then I'm going to just have a little flat bottom bowl that's going to look like, somebody with a big giant head and no butt. It's too weird. And you can this wideness thing, you can make it ever wider. And as you see my demo of throwing very large multi-part pots, you'll notice that I'll use this technique to create rings that are wider. For if I'm doing like a 5-part pot or something that's over 100 pounds, the rings that are required to stack that piece are bigger and bigger. And so this technique becomes more and more important as you seek to increase the absolute size of work you can make. Okay, so I'm satisfied with how open this is now. It's like, about like this, which is pretty wide. And now I'm gonna just do a little bit of prep. You can think of this as raising, what I'm about to do, but I'm not really thinking about it like I usually think about it. I have 3 raises. The first one to move clay, the second one to finish the top, and the third one to finish the bottom. That is not exactly what I'm doing. My first raise here, what I'm trying to do is set up the inside so that I can paddle the extra piece of clay that I have waiting in the wings into the center. And that's a little bit different move, because what I'm really trying to do is get it so that my bowl hits the bat and then doesn't have a place to catch air. So I'm making this thing where it's like coming into the bat and a smooth curve, and then it comes to a clean, kind of semi-dried off bat in here. So what that will look like functionally is a little bit of a raise that mostly goes up. But notice that I'm keeping the outside here as vertical as possible. So it's super strong. What I want to avoid is like bowing that outside into more of a bowl shape, because then all the weight of the bowl, all the weight of the walls of the bowl are like out over space. Right now, all the weight of this, I can keep building and building and building, and it's like out, it's only over itself. So I'm always thinking like, is there weight of clay hanging over space? And in bowls, that's like the reason why bowls start going whoa, whoa, or they start getting crazy, especially at the end, because you got too much clay hanging out over space, and the clay is not stiff enough to be out over space like that. So I will strategically avoid that positioning for my clay, because my clay is on the soft side. And so I'll do a little raise, and you see that my raise isn't as powerful as it could be, but what it is it's super solid, and it's making this into that stable, thick cylinder, which will then become the walls of the bowl. Now again, this is totally bottomless. And I'm just setting up to add the next piece of clay. So I'm gonna wipe out all this stuff. I'm gonna do a really good job wiping out the bottom here, making this like blue, you know, nice. I want to do a good job cleaning, make this nice. Because when I paddle in, I'm gonna take a ball of clay and stick it in, and I'm gonna paddle it in there basically. And if I paddle air into this, which I will, almost inevitably, I'm gonna paddle a little bit of air in, and I'm gonna have to like pop a bubble. But if I do a lot, I'm gonna be sad, and grumpy, crying. We don't want that. Now I'm gonna tack this out just a little bit so that I got plenty of room for the paddle to work. Okay, I think that's probably pretty good. I gotta clean myself. And I'm gonna clean, you know, it's weird to wipe your wet clay with a towel. That's a weird thing a little bit, but it will help the clay, the next piece of clay adhere. So just do whatever you gotta do, no problem. I'm especially focused on the bat because I don't want there to be like slippery slip on the bat. And then I'm wiping the slippery slip out of the inside here. So now when I touch this, the clay feels sticky. And that's really helpful because we're gonna ask this clay to come together and homogenize itself with no slipping and scoring. We're gonna rely on the movement of our throwing process. And so we need to give all the clay all the help that it needs. I'm gonna be using this Garrity Tools Mushroom Anvil. This is a really good tool for this because you can pound, basically you can pound like this. But also, you know, this is kind of like an imitation here, and I'll show this tool. It's a really cool tool. The handle screws off. You can get different size of these parts. And so that's a really useful and nice thing. But they cost, I mean, they're, you know, I don't know, 25 bucks or something. I'm not Garrity sponsor or anything. But you know what else you can get? A rock. You can just go to the outdoors and rely on nature to provide. So you can see these look really similar. I've made a lot of bowls just using a rock. This was 15 cents or so by the pound at a landscaping store, $25 at my local clay shop. I will demonstrate with this because, you know, truth be told, this is better. It's easier. You know, there's that money does yield something. Could you give me that ball of clay that's back there, please? Thanks. Okay, so here's my 6 pound, 7 ounce ball of clay. It's exactly 6 pounds, 7 ounces. This is a little inside joke to the people that are here. I said I was gonna cut 6, 7, and I hit it perfect. So, but about a third, that doesn't need to be perfect. About a third of the bag, or about a third of the size of the bowl should be reserved for the floor. So the other thing you'll notice is that I've done a really nice job kind of making a nice padded, smooth, rounded piece. I'm gonna start close to where I wanna end up, just like always, and stick that in there. And oh my gosh, it looks outrageously too much. That's way too much clay. How could you ever put this much clay in the bottom of a bowl? Well, guys, it's a huge bowl, and this amount of clay is gonna go away in a way that's gonna be surprising. So I can start by kind of just like pounding it in a little bit, and then I'll start rotating the wheel and just pounding. And as I do that, you'll see that the thing will get wider and wider, and if I do a lot of pounds, it will kind of even itself out. And if I feel like there's this fundament, it's like, oh, I shifted over here a little bit. No problem. Just like kind of punch it over the way you want it to go. You know, what we're trying to do here is just make sure that the inside doesn't get folded over so that we trap air. So, you know, I'm doing what I need to do as I push this in to ensure that no air is trapped on that seam line. And that's really my key objective as I push this in here and kind of avoid that trapped air. And then as I get to a place where my hands have pushed it in, you know, I can use a combination of the paddle and my hands. But the key is I'm rotating and I'm paddling evenly. And this, over time, this move will both compress the clay and help it to homogenize, but it'll also even out the clay to the level that we can then throw off of it. Nice thing about this anvil tool is you can kind of modulate how you're holding it to get a better connection. If you're using a rock, you know, it's always like trying to awkwardly hold it while, like, I always want to pound right here where my fingers are. And so you're always like pounding the edges of your fingers, which is fine because the clay is soft, but it's kind of sad. So thanks, Garrity, for making such a great tool. Maybe they'll watch the video. Then as I get closer, so now I'm feeling like as I'm doing this, most of the air has been kind of forced out of here. And I have like kind of this piece of pad clay that's down here that's kind of wobbling around. It's not wobbling around too bad, but notice now we're working, this is thick, this is really thick. So if I bump it or I mess around with it, it's not gonna like ruin it. And so now all I gotta do is just worry about getting this bottom smoothed out. And I'm gonna use my claw fingers to kind of just smooth out the bottom and be okay with removing a little bit of clay in that process. So every time I do that, I'm using no water. And this is really the crucial thing, is like marrying on the inside here, marrying this up to the inside corner. And look how much clay is in there. And now it's like, well, that's a lot of clay, for sure it's thick, but it's not that thick. It's kind of surprising how that clay, when you flatten out clay, it goes away. Like a little bit goes not that far. And so that, for me, it's the same thing with height. I always think that however much clay I have is going to go way taller than it does, or it wants to go. And with a plate, that the plate's going to be way wider. That's a pitfall with plates, is people that they're like, oh, this is a 5-pound plate, it should be 15 inches. It's like, no, if you make a 5-pound, 15-inch plate, it'll be a warped potato chip. And that's a tough maturity to get, because we work really hard to figure out how to throw really thin. Okay, so now I'm gonna just go back and forth over the bottom to refine it, make it better and better, and complete my clay wasting process. This is also a time when I can come in with a wood rib. It's also a time when I can even come in with a wire loop tool. Like if this was going really crazy and I needed to like chunk off, like one side was like going like this, up, down, I could just hold the loop tool, where every time it went up, it would just bump the loop and like take another worm of clay off of there. And that would help to even out the floor. Like all I'm trying to do right now is create that nice even floor. And along the lines of the whole centering, opening, raising, shaping, throwing process, you know, we're just finishing opening. You know, we opened it, now we're laying in the bottom, we're gonna finish the opening process so that then we can resume our normal process of raising and shaping this bowl. Now I'm getting it wet. Coming in, you see with each pass, this gets more and more civilized. And one thing is, you know, like this is kind of an unstable place. It can be hard to work the bottom of a bowl because you got nothing to brace off of, you know? And so one thing that can be helpful is bracing up into your chest like this, because I'm basically shortening my arms by bringing my chest to them, so I can get a really braced position in that way. You know, so always be thinking about, you know, okay, how can I do a better job bracing for this particular move? And it's a little awkward and it feels weird, but it's definitely stronger. And I can see and feel it in the efficacy of my moves here at the bottom of the piece. Okay, so now basically I have created the bottom of my bowl. I always want there to be a fall to the bottom of the bowl, the center of the bowl. The fall, what does that mean? So if it was full of steak, all the juice would end up in a little puddle in the center, not a ring around the outside. So for bowls, I always want there to be a fall all the way to the center. So that's pretty much my bowl North Star. I also always want to be cognizant of the three parts of the pot: the base, the body, and the rim. I want the relationship between the rim and the foot, especially on a bowl, to not be stupid, but it doesn't need to be anything super particular. So now we have this cylinder, and it's time to raise. Centering, opening, raising, shaping. I know there's a big bubble down here, at least one of them, But I'm not gonna address it until I've done one raise, so I can figure out exactly where they're at and what I gotta do. And it may not actually be that bad. And sometimes these raises will be enough. If you do a powerful raise, you'll notice that a powerful raise will pop bubbles. Okay, I might have popped some bubbles. I thought it was gonna be worse than it was, which is good. Now notice the shape of this. I'm gonna be working on a straight-sided thing until the very end. Right now, my North Star here is I'm trying to get this raised up so that the rim can end up where I want it to end up. And then I'll base everything else, all my other moves will be based around where the rim is and like bringing the bowl to where the rim is. Really helpful to be steady right now. Look at all that clay I'm keeping up there. If I want this bowl to get wider, that's gonna go less. So I really, really wanna focus on keeping a lot of clay up here. And if I gotta cut the rim off and I lose that ring, that's gonna suck. It's a little, I'm not bad, but it's a little bit off. But it's a handmade bowl, it's a big handmade bowl. Having a tiny bit of offness in the rim, I'm inclined to tolerate. Especially because I'm not attaching something in, it's like, it's not the end of the world if there's a little bit of wobble. Okay, now I'm seeing a couple bubbles. And what I'm doing with these bubbles is aggressively and savagely stabbing all the way through the bubble, out the side of the pot. I'm going all the way through. So now I am gonna push out from the inside, and the air is gonna vent from holes on the outside. So I'll be able to get a complete exit of air and push the bubble all the way out, and there's that exit hole will remain open all the way in. Then I'll just do the smallest little adjustments to close up the holes forever and ever. They don't stick around. They're not a problem. So get aggressive when you're popping bubbles. See how that worked. Sometimes there's some guess and check involved. It can be hard to see exactly where they're at. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I'm feeling messy. Ugh. It will help your practice to clean your hands. People I don't know what it is, but people, if their hands are undisciplined, they make undisciplined decisions. So discipline yourself to stay clean. Okay, so now basically I need to get to the end of my raising process so that I can finish shaping. The end of my raising process has mostly to do with trying to get the rim to the width and height that I seek. Trip, stop it, dude. Notice I'm taking a super stable position because now this bowl is just relying on my body for stability. These bowls really want to get wonky, especially as I make it thinner and wider. And notice how safe this curve is. No curve here. Safe, safe, safe. No clay hanging over space. That is safe. That is low risk as far as the clay is concerned. I'm going to do a little bit of rim adjustment to try to get part of the wobble. Who wants a necklace? Okay, so that's gonna just help my rim feel more in control. But you notice I didn't take off all of that hard won clay up there. It's really hard to get that nice big thick rim. Also, this nice big thick rim is gonna help prevent the rim of this thing from warping terribly in a high fire setting. You know, like with clays that vitrify, get close to vitrifying, if you fire these big bowls with a little thin rim there, you almost always see them like heinously warped, and it's sad. Because then they don't work in the cupboard very well. They don't play nice with the other bowls that are from IKEA. Okay, I think we're basically there. Now it's time to get the rib. I'm still doing stabilizing rib, centering, opening, raising, shaping, all the same techniques, same tools, but just a little different format. So I'm in here with my flat side of my wood rib. This is also a good opportunity for those that are in person here to see how my finger is interacting with the rib and the sponge. My inside hand. That's basically what I'm doing in the hidden hand in the cylinder. And so now you see, as I have this bowl, it's still super straight-sided. I'm doing all this stuff, I'm setting up, making it nice, and you'll see I'll make it nicer and nicer and nicer and nicer, so it looks really nice, but kind of an uninspired shape. And then I will bring inspiration in the shape. And then like the last card in a house of cards, I'll go, nobody touch. And that will provide the tension and life to this bowl that I find beautiful and that I want. You'll also notice I got a ton of support clay. I'm going to trim a ton of clay off of here. To achieve the curve in the bottom of this bowl, it's a lot. I mean, there is a curve, you know. If you're looking at the video, it's like the bottom of the bowl is this wide, but the curve starts here. So a lot of that outside of the curve is, or the, you know, like this part of the bowl is getting trimmed off to support a bowl that moves into the table a lot, that feels a lot more bowly and dynamic, you know, rather than just this kind of straight-sided thing. So a big part of this bowl is my future plans for how I'm going to deal with it. Now, if I'm feeling this, like, see, this is kind of starting to go a little wonky. And it's like, what do I do? You know, it's like this, it's just a little something happening, but this is a big bowl. So this kind of gets out of hand really quick. And there is one rule to this, and that is torch it. Just always torch it. If something weird's happening, get the slip out, especially near the bottom, and give it a torch. And that's going to help solve it. Does anyone see the torch? Thanks.
Are you going to trim a foot ring and flip it or no?
Yes. Yeah, this is, to me, all bulls need a foot, and all dogs go to heaven. Even if they ate a cat turd.
You did.
She says, not today. I haven't eaten a cat turd in at least 9 hours. Okay. Thinking about torching, I put a certain number of joules of energy into this pot. I could impart that joules of energy in those 1 minute or however long I just did, or I could have just heat gunned this or hair dried this for like 30 minutes. All that matters is the joules of energy you could put into the pot to drive the moisture out. So I suggest when it comes to managing the moisture of your work, do it as fast as possible so that you can do a good job. Most people do not have the patience to sit here for 30 minutes and really do what's needed to make this a little stiffer. But that little bit of action is going to go a really, really, really long way in allowing me to make this into the bowl that I want. So I'm already fairly close. You know, like this, I'm not badly offended by this shape. I'm going to just do a little bit of stabilizing here on this little stiffer thing. Now hopefully you can see how now that that's stiffer, the clay is cooperating with me better. So instead of being like I'm chasing it to the collapse, now it's like I'm having a conversation. If I'm not able to fully kind of get it back to fully perfectly centered, at least I'm having a conversation with it and it's not just deciding everything for me. So now my focus is just on the rim. I'm basically where I want to be with the bowl, with a lot of the bowl, that its general form and feeling. And I'm going to work on the rim first, and then I'm going to come down to make sure that the substance bowl, like the containing part of the bowl, is how I want it on the inside. I only care about the inside. The outside is going to be trimmed. I'm for sure trimming the bowl, so I do not worry about the outside really at all. Except for the top 4 inches, because like I'm not trimming that, and especially the rim. You know, you have an opportunity to trim up to the top 2 inches, but you know, you rarely have a chance to fix whatever problems you sew into the rim. I find that bowls with super round rims last longer by a lot. I find that bowls that have a really strong lip on them, sometimes they can be a little easier to pick up and carry around, which people like, but also in the cupboard, they slam against the back wall. The big pot, grandma's big cast iron pot, you know, that the rim is so exposed. So the thing about these big bowls is like, what are you gonna do with it? Is it really gonna be used? If it's not, that's whatever, it's all good. But if it is gonna be used, some of these functional considerations become really important. Like when we wash it in the sink, are we strong enough to not like drop it hard? You know, it's like the foot needs to be really rounded, because most people kind of drop them, they hit the counter, or you know, it's like they don't put them down real light and easy. And so if you have a really knife edge foot on them, that's a problem. So, you know, all those things start to become more and more important the bigger and bigger you get with bowls. I like to take the time and the care to make that edge of this bowl just what I want. Remember, this is going to cost me $100 to make, and it's going to last for 1,000 years. And if I can't spend 3 minutes to make the rim look right, shame on me. Okay, now I'm going into final adjustment phase here. And my first order of business is to retrieve my metal rib from the floor. When I come through, one thing about this, like especially like refining the bottom, you can chase divots around and you can kind of endlessly do it. And you have to get yourself kind of your mind right where it's like, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna make a few great moves that are gonna be deft and quick. And some of those moves will represent some compromises. And then I'm gonna stop. And I will stop at a point before perfection. Don't let perfection stand in the way of the good. Super common. Like this moment where you have, it's like I've seen so many people have this beautiful, nice bowls, and then they're trying to get out some little tiny thing in here that like truly no one is actually ever gonna notice, but they can't let it go. So if there's something you can't let go, it's okay to have great taste and not be able to let go of bad stuff, but change the stiffness of your clay before you try to deal with those problems. You know, like you can trim a lot of problems out even on the inside of a bowl. You know, trim the inside of a bowl. People say, "Oh, you shouldn't trim the inside of bowls." Why not? Who cares? If it makes it how you want, who cares? If you collapse the bowl at this stage, you're not going to have to worry about any of this. And to me, the most important moment of the bowl is where it goes from the floor to the wall. And that curve staying round and smooth and continuous, really difficult. It's made a lot easier if you've torched it, and if you have adequate support clay down here. I'm gonna trim a bunch of this off, and that's totally cool. This bowl could be a lot bigger if I utilize more clay, but then it would also be ugly. Down through here with my metal rib. You can see that on each part, I'm kind of doing a thing and moving on. And like, I get there, I get as good as I can get, and then if it's not perfect, I still move on because I'm only gonna make it worse. There's no making it better for a lot of this stuff. Once you've kind of made your initial move, the diminishing returns thing is huge. And you're not gonna really get it very much better than your initial move. Especially when it comes to the very, very floor and the very bottom of the bowl. A lot of times it feels really tempting to just work on that forever. But for me, it's like one rib move, and at the bottom, there's a little line from where my rib was. You know, like it didn't do perfect. But I know that I'll just wait until it's a little hard. I'll just go, no problem. Nothing, no big deal. Or I can sit here and agonize for the next half hour. So take that philosophy as you will, but I think it's really helpful. It's been really helpful for me. Now I'm gonna just come back through. Now I'm kind of basically in final inspection mode. I'm gonna make sure that there's no little spots in here that are offensive. What have I done? I got a little goober here. Probably, look at, I didn't clean my hands and a little goober came off my hands. And now it's gonna make it hard for me. And so that's a good kind of reiteration of that lesson. Like, keep your hands clean, because if you drop a little crumb on your finished bowl, you're gonna wish you hadn't. And you're gonna have to do this procedure to get it off. And so what's the procedure? This is probably a good exercise because this happens to a lot of people. And if you wanted to learn how to do this, you've already learned, and you can turn the video off now. But if you want to learn how to refine, so I made a mistake. I dropped a little piece of clay on here, And so I dry my hands off, and I'll go and get it. And just carefully remove that little thing. Carefully smooth out the damage that I did. That's also serving to make sure that there's no more little dried pieces stuck in there. Then I'm gonna come back in and, and this is truly my last move because I'm feeling satisfied with how the bowl looks. I'll come back in with my metal rib and just do the lightest contact. And then I'll remove the line that my metal rib left with my sponge or a chamois or a plastic bag or however you'd like to do. I don't mind the sponge, especially on the rim, because rims always seem to smooth out the sponge marks. I don't like sponge marks so much on the body of the work, but on the rim it's all right. I'll use my fingers to smooth out the sponge lines. And I'll make sure that my outside rim look is complete and smooth and good. And we'll call that a 25-pound bowl. Like and subscribe for more. Thanks.
Woo!
I'm gonna hit this. Now I need to take this off the wheel. And I don't want to take it off until it's a lot drier. So I'm gonna hit this for a minute with a torch. So it's stiff when I take the bat off. I'm not, obviously I'm taking off the bat, to be clear. Also, the video is still running, but I'm not gonna include this. This isn't the secret part. Just a little pro tip. I like to undercut these, even though I'm not worried about how it looks. If I undercut this a little bit, just like this, it'll make it easier to trim. And I won't have to deal with that crazy edge.
Do you have, I'm assuming, yes, that you have bats big enough that you can flip that over onto a giant bat?
You're right.
And you just take the splash pan off and go in.
Yep.
Is it easier when you get that large to trim that just to make a plywood bat, a quarter inch, something like that? Or?
Yep. Well, depends on who you are, but yes.
Okay.
If you have woodworking skills and tools, and you know how to scribe and draft on the wood so that you can get an accurate, drilling the bat pin holes can be hard. So one thing that I found that works really good for if you want to make a big bat, cut a big circle, and it's hard to do that. Put it on your wheel, and then get it centered on your wheel, just with your hands so that it's like spinning as perfectly as you can get it. And then just like pound it really hard so that the bat pins that are on your actual wheel will make actual imprints in the actual wood. And then you'll see exactly where you must drill from a direct scribed perspective. Or, you also put a little paint on but it's really hard to center it. You get the paint on there and then center it. It's so for me, I found that I can kind of mostly get it centered on top of the bat pins on the spinning wheel if I just do that. And then if I just boom, then it leaves enough mark that I know where to drill and it's accurate enough that I can get it to work. But
for the walls of the body of this, are you still aiming for the 3/8-ish or is it a little bit thicker?
yeah, I mean, it's like 3/8 right here. Yeah. Or a little bit thinner even. 3/8, I think of measurements like fat quarter and a skinny quarter, fat 3/8 and a skinny 3/8. I'd say this would be a skinny 3/8. Which is what? 5, 16, 40. Yeah,
And you were probably a half inch before you started to widen?
more than that.
More than that?
Yeah, probably like 3/4. Or a fat half, fat half or skinny 3/4,
Okay.
probably.
And this
But-
is like a 31.5
No, this is 25 only.
Well, it has the extra 6 in the third.
When it was a 25-pound block, I cut 6 pounds 7 ounces off the 25-pound block.
Oh, I see.
So this is truly a 25-pound bowl.
fixing it. Just take your bit square and like hit it with a torch and
You know?
get the glaze.
Will you flip this like pizza flip?
Mm-hmm.
And just with confidence and go for it?
Yeah, you'll see. I will trim this as part of this.
Okay.
You'll see it. Yeah. Also the real one, I gotta trim this 50-pound plate.